session here.
Thank you very much, Scott. Good morning and welcome to our 11th annual Center for the Digital Globe Symposium. As Scott said, we are on YouTube Live and Missouri Business Alert's website. I want to thank Missouri Business Alert for publicizing this event this past week, and I encourage you to subscribe to their free newsletter, which covers the business news in the state of Missouri. My name is Randall Smith, and I'm a professor of business journalism and the co-director of the Center for the Digital Globe. The Center for the Digital Globe is a combined effort of 4 schools and colleges: business, journalism, human and environmental sciences, and law. The purpose of the center is to help our students gain a better understanding of our digital world through collaboration, entrepreneurship, and hands-on training. We promote cross-campus classwork and cooperation, and this competition is an excellent example. Our graduate students from the Business and Journalism School have been working together this semester through classwork and hands-on consulting with challenges presented by 3 companies. They are the Wall Street Journal, the Associated Press, and Muck Rock. Of course, this semester has been unusual. We had to move the class online in March due to the pandemic, and I wish we were in the big auditorium as we have been in years past. But we're all learning new things because of this situation, and I want to compliment our students for their perseverance, patience, and hard work. Before I go much further, I'd like to also thank my friend Jim Kennedy, who is Senior Vice President for Strategy at the Associated Press. It was through Jim's inspiration and help that we were able to lift this class from an idea to a reality that you see here today. One of Jim's suggestions before we began the class a decade ago was that each student team have a faculty mentor. I'd like to introduce my colleagues, my 2 colleagues who have helped with this class. Les Borgmeyer is Senior Vice President for VisionWorks, a marketing group in Columbia. He has helped teach this class for several years and has a wealth of business experience in newspapers, television, and he regularly teaches marketing and management classes. He worked with Team Wall Street Journal this year. Scott Christensen is a professor in the Trulaskey College of Business. He teaches a wide variety of popular classes and is frequently an expert guest on television and radio subjects like artificial intelligence and technology. Scott has worked with Team Muck Rock. So thank you, Scott and Les, for your hard work this semester. Our presentations will be judged by a panel of 4 judges, and let me introduce them. Dr. Ashley Gangloff, who is Assistant Professor of Management at the Trulaskey College of Business. Rob Jones, who is a PhD candidate in Strategic Communications at the Missouri School of Journalism. And by the way, Rob was a student in this class a few years ago. Maria Lusardi is the founder of Industrial Marketers, which she began in 2015, and also was in this class many years ago. She has an MBA from Trulaskey. And finally, Dr. Tom Rose is a veterinarian and owner of the Rolling Hills Veterinary Hospitals in Columbia. Besides his veterinary degrees, he also has a master's in public health and teaches that subject at the University of Missouri. So thank you, Ashley, Rob, Maria, and Tom for being here today. Here's how our competition will work. Our student teams will each have a strict 25 minutes to make their case, and then we will have 15 minutes set aside for questioning by our judges. We will announce a winner shortly after the last team has presented. So let's go ahead and get started, and I'll ask Professor Borgmeyer, can you please introduce the company mentor of the Wall Street Journal, who is Taylor Nakagawa?
Yes, thank you very much, Randy. And it has been my pleasure to work with these students who have been flexible enough to continue working with their professional organizations this year. And I want to introduce Taylor Nakagawa. He is the audience interaction producer at the Wall Street Journal. His role consists of working across departments to create news story formats and experiences that elevate the voices of the journal's members. Taylor graduated with a master's degree from the Missouri School of Journalism in 2017 and also participated in this class. And now, Taylor, if you would introduce the project, please.
Great. Thank you, Les. Hi, everyone. My name is Taylor Nakagawa, and thanks so much for having me on today.
So this year we challenged the students to help us refresh a number of personal finance guides that have been on our website for a number of years since the early 2000s, but really haven't received much attention. So they're in big need to be refreshed and think about how we can target them to different audiences. So as part of this challenge, we wanted the students to present the journal a set of recommendations to help us present, repackage, and target these guides at a younger audience, which we deemed as ages 18 to 35. So this project is a part of a larger initiative at the journal that has been going on for the past few years, where we're thinking about how we can better serve the needs of young people and entice them to become members for life at the journal. Last year's team also helped us target young people, and their work is already going into effect in the daily lives of people who are trying to build new sets of tools for young people. We wanted to give the students kind of a well-rounded approach of how we work at the journal, and to do this along with myself, we also had our personal finance chief, Beret Lamb, and our R&D chief, Alyssa Zeisler, be part of the advising team as well. So this presentation that was presented last week at the journal was extremely well received. We had people across our entire strategy department join the meeting, and it raised a lot of eyebrows. So I'm really proud of what the students have done, and I want to give them a lot of kudos for working through all the challenges that the pandemic showed us, especially working from home and having to continue with this project. So good luck to all the other groups out there today, and I'll hand it over to the students.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Taylor. Thank you, Randy and Les and Taylor, for all the kind words. We really appreciate everyone being on the call today during this crazy time. Team Wall Street really hopes everyone's staying safe and with their families. And we really appreciate, again, the time that everyone took today to listen to our presentations and all the other students' presentations. Everyone worked really hard, and we really feel like we were able to help a lot of these news companies. So to kind of start, we are team, actually, we have a screen up, Reggio.
Scott, I just messaged you. It won't let me share my screen.
Okay, thank you all. It should be all right.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Scott. So like I said, we are Team Wall Street Journal, and we were really happy to be able to work with Taylor so closely to try to accomplish the goals of what Wall Street intended for us to find. And now we're going to introduce the team. I think there's some technical difficulties.
Yeah, let's just start off. My name's Austin Van Black. I'm
Nope, Austin, let's wait a second.
You wanna wait?
Yeah. All right.
Okay, sorry for those technical difficulties. My name is Ryan Riggio, and I'm an MBA candidate with the University of Missouri, and I'll be graduating in May 2020. And my undergrad was actually in mechanical engineering.
Yeah, my name's Austin Van Black. I had an undergrad in business finance, and I'll be graduating here in May of 2020.
My name's Grant Fry. I'm currently in my third semester as an MBA student here at the University of Missouri. My undergrad was in personal financial planning here at the University of Missouri as well, so I was really excited to take on this task.
My name is Madison Conti. I'm finishing up my master's in journalism in December. I did my undergrad here at Mizzou as well in convergence and investigative journalism.
And then Xin Zhao was our colleague during this, and she conducted a lot of research and is currently studying abroad from China, and we really appreciate all the help that she did on the project. So starting off, we have our agenda here. I'm going to start off with the goal that Wall Street Journal intended us for to find, and then also we are going to go through a variety of topics with all of you, and then finish with a Q&A. So the goal. So our goal was to better understand the needs of 18 to 35-year-old audience that was previously discovered from a Wall Street Journal team. And then because of this, we're going to be able to redesign and revitalize the personal finance how-to guides. And in doing that, we're going to be able to redesign those, make them web optimized, and then also be able to learn how to distribute those for the Wall Street Journal. So what do people want? So to talk about what people want and to try to find this information out, we ended up doing a survey. And in this survey, we were able to look at this specific demographic from 18 to 35-year-olds and just kind of be able to dig a little deeper in what they're wanting from this information, and then also how we're going to be able to apply this in the ways we were trying to figure out to better the Wall Street Journal. We're really happy. We got 973 responses. This was a really big deal for us, and it definitely exceeded our expectations. We uncovered a lot of data we find useful, and I'm excited to go into a little bit of that in the next slides coming up. So the big three. So as you can see, text-based articles, informational videos, and email newsletters were something that this demographic found extremely useful. We think that going into what Wall Street wants to do and how to present this information, these are going to be the most effective. And this was definitely something when developing our prototypes for the Wall Street Journal, we took under consideration. So most popular topics. As you see here, these are the 5 most popular topics that 18 to 35-year-olds are looking for specifically. And we found this very valuable for Wall Street because they have a wealth of knowledge when it comes to the personal finance sections and guides that they have, and they cover all of these topics specifically. So we think being that there's so much interest in these 5 topics and they're so wide and what you can speak on and give advice to in these topics, that Wall Street Journal is going to have a wealth of knowledge to offer. And there's clearly an interest in that. So yeah, this was a pretty interesting fact we found on our survey as well. When students actually want to consume this personal financial information, tax season, specifically in the months of March and April, are when students are really trying to get their personal finances in order. So we feel like this is a great opportunity for Wall Street come around next tax season or the season after that to really push their financial guides, because that's going to be able to really help them in their personal financial lives. Then how much would they pay? So I think, as we all know, college students don't have as much income as they would like, or from the 18 to 35-year-old demographic as well. So we found that $0 to $5 would be a great way to, kind of test the waters when it comes to price that they would be willing to pay for these personal financial guides. And then a couple things that we wanted to point out from a study as before from Wall Street Journal groups that we found similarities in our surveys were summaries they can skim. I think this is something that this specific demographic really values. They want to be able to get those main points so they can be able to apply that to their personal financial lives. And then also down to earth and approachable. I think we want to be able to go up to someone, ask them, and get an honest opinion from them, because we are going to be applying that to our lives, and also it could be affecting loved ones if we do have a family. So we thought that was really important to point out. And then we took 3 quotes from our survey because we wanted to emphasize about that approachability. I highlighted 3 words here: professors, family, and friends. These are people that we think are approachable and very trustworthy. So this was clear 2 years later from that study that this is still very relevant to them, and they want to make sure that who they're getting their personal financial information from, they trust. And we believe that Wall Street Journal easily is one of the best places to find personal financial information and financial information. So we have to make sure that when we release this information, it's going to be able to seem very approachable when it comes to the wording, and also trustworthy when it comes to the wealth of information that Wall Street has. And I'd like to pass it on to my colleague, Austin Black.
Yeah, thanks, Grant. In the last section, we really focused on the core numbers. I'm going to go over more of the personal anecdotes from the personal interviews that we had. When people and those what they're looking for in the personal finance. young people find personal finance by going online and really just typing it into Google. To give you an understanding of where people turn first, we need to understand where the Wall Street Journal personal finance guides are right now. What we're looking at right now is with a current offering. So these guys are, as you can see, very basic. They're taken straight out of books. There's no pictures. Overall, they're pretty bland, not exactly the most attractive thing for the readers. Now let's look over and see like what the people like to see and what tools they want. First is Investopedia. Investopedia has much more depth. In fact, it's the world's largest financial education platform digitally. All the information can be navigated through this search bar, and Investopedia has a bunch of different ways to engage these users through the newsletter subscription service called Term of the Day, stock simulators, the Academy. There's all these different tools to engage the reader. The next is the Morning Brew, which is a newsletter specifically designed for young business professionals. It is written in that millennial tone, which is more informal writing. But the key thing to pick up here is that you can read the entire newsletter in the time it takes to read one Wall Street Journal article. Next is NerdWallet. NerdWallet is a tool that has a wealth of different platforms. Really, the big focus is they offer unique tools to help people make financial plans. As you can see on the screen here, two of the tools that NerdWallet offers, which are a 401k calculator and a mobile app to help individuals track spending. This chart gives you a good breakdown of the personal financial guides. The journal here, this graph, pardon me, gives like really good perspective that the journal lacks the tools necessary to engage these young business professionals. Now, Maddie is going to go over what we believe the solution to this problem is.
Thanks, Austin. So let's dig in. So we did some interviews earlier in the spring as part of our market research, and this quote was something that really stuck with me throughout this whole process. Katie is kind of how I envision the spectrum of our target demographic here. She's a really busy person. She works 2 jobs so she can put herself through a higher ed degree. She has a partner who's in nursing school and a dog. She has a lot going on. So when she needs to make decisions about a 401k, which is something she told me she had to do earlier this spring, she doesn't really have the time to sort through all the finance jargon just to get to what she's looking for. So with all that information in mind, we set out to create a product that kind of meets all those different needs, and this is what we came up with. In order to target this younger demographic, if you remember, we need a product that is down to earth and approachable. So we created this conversational how-to guide that's visually broken up into quick little digestible pieces. It's also search engine optimized to bring more viewers into the Wall Street Journal's article. We use Google Trends to identify different top keywords that are associated with the topic, and we really maximize using those in our headings throughout the article. And what that's going to do is help drive in more traffic from Google. And it's aesthetically pleasing with different multimedia elements throughout. When we first saw those original how-to guides, my first reaction was that they were kind of overwhelming, kind of intimidating. They're just these big walls of text, and it didn't really feel like they were written with me in mind. It felt more like they were written for someone much older. So one of the most important things we did was just trim them down. We used our survey and interviews to see what topics other people like us really wanted to know about. And then we focused that content with those goals in mind. And we used this Q&A style that was approved by the journal's senior SEO editor. And so this is going to build on some of the success they've had with their recent coronavirus guides. And that Q&A format kind of mimics how a user might search for this kind of content, but it's also a little bit playful, which is a really nice change from that older man image that comes to mind when a lot of people think of the journal. And again, we're using these different methods of sharing information throughout the article to really target every kind of learner. And again, just to break up that content more visually. So I am someone who is very online, and I see posts like these all the time from people in their 20s. And they're really easy to find because for some reason, if we move on to the next one, you'll see that they are always about taxes and always about the quadratic formula specifically. So while we can't exactly help Nathan here in the emotional trauma department, what we can do is help unpack some of these real life financial skills that people like him are looking for. Which brings us to Study Hall. It's a place to brush up on everything they didn't teach you in school. Email newsletters were one of the information sources that was super popular in our survey. So we really want to take advantage of that medium for this audience. And it really makes sense because by nature, newsletters are more succinct and informal. So they tend to really resonate with our demographic. And going back to our interviewee, Katie, she said she likes an informational newsletter because it comes straight to her inbox. So there's no pressure to read it right now. But later, if she has time during lunch or something, she knows she can easily refer back to it. And the big thing for her is that she can learn something new without having to do a lot of digging. So we had a little fun with this one. We used this lighthearted, kind of relatable screen cap from a sitcom. And then we dive into that content that, again, it's broken up in that really accessible way. And we're using that Q&A format and casual tone again. And we're using more examples to kind of illustrate our ideas. And again, sprinkling in those different multimedia elements. And we're really leaning into the theme here. Our goal is to make it feel playful and unintimidating. Students and young people said that they like a summary they can skim. So instead of a summary, it's a cheat sheet. And then we link to related sources in the extra credit section. It helps us take this topic that can be kind of serious and dry and just lightens it up a little bit, making it more approachable and less like a chore. And across both platforms, this is all sustainable, evergreen content. So the journal can really easily update and redistribute it as time goes on. And this is really just the first phase of our plan to roll out these guides for the 18 to 35-year-old. Our research has identified other areas for future exploration like podcasting, and we're recommending that the journal venture into those eventually as well. So with that, Ryan Riggio is going to discuss our promotional strategy.
Yeah, and I'm going to talk to you guys about our marketing strategy and how we plan to really build awareness for these two new products. First off, we'd like to utilize our search engine optimization specifically for the guides. And we see this as a technique to draw customers to our website where they hopefully have their questions answered. And upon that, we hope that they continue to come back to the Wall Street Journal's website to have their future questions on personal finance answered as well. As for advertising for both the guides and the newsletter, we'd like to focus specifically on social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, and TikTok. We find these to be popular with that target demographic, again, of the age 18 to 35-year-olds. And with our advertising, we'd also like to partner with social media influencers, business leaders within the industry that can really recommend the product to their followers, because we think that takes it a step further than just your standard advertising. As for the image for both the guides and the newsletter, we think we can use the extension of the Wall Street Journal's trustworthiness image onto both of them. And at the same time, having them concise with that question and answer style of writing, as well as the summaries for quick glances. As for the newsletter, we'd like to utilize a word of mouth promotional program and rely heavily on student ambassadors. These ambassadors could recommend the product to their friends and family. And as they recommend more people, they'd be able to get at different thresholds like stickers as well as maybe a coffee mug or t-shirt. We see this as a way to really help build the style of people having the product recommended to them. We'd also like to utilize existing marketing channels, specifically on social media. As you can see right here, this is the Wall Street Journal's personal finance Twitter page. In the past, it hasn't been utilized to its full potential. And we think that using it to help promote the guides as well as the new newsletter to its over 300,000 followers would be a great way to reach out to that target demographic on Twitter. We'd also like to utilize the live Q&A sessions that the Wall Street Journal currently has been using. We see this as a way for potential customers coming to the website to have their personal finance questions answered in real time by an industry expert in personal finance. We also see some potential with the Wall Street Journal for professors. Different professors at universities all across the nation are able to would be able to partner with the Wall Street Journal and be able to grab these personal finance guides and implement them into their existing personal finance courses. And this way, students would be able to, on that lower end of our demographic, would get exposure to the Wall Street Journal. Now for some mock promotional tweets. The first one here is promoting one of the new personal finance guides. And it says, we compiled everything you need to buy your first stock from your living room. And by everything, we mean everything. And again, having a link right to the new personal finance guide. And it's written with that kind of casual tone that is very popular with that 18 to 35-year-old demographic. And next to that, introducing our new newsletter, introducing Study Hall, the journal's newsletter to stay up to date on personal finance news while you're riding out the pandemic at home. It hits your inbox Monday, Wednesday, and Friday evenings. Again, providing the link to easily sign up for the newsletter through the Wall Street Journal's website. And a mock business influencer, actually from the Wall Street Journal's, one of their articles, the best tweets for your money. We found they rated Josh Brown #1, and he has over 1 million followers, and he could be a potential target as a social media influencer and having him recommend the product to his over 1 million followers. And for example, wish you were as smart as me. Well, unfortunately, you can't be, but you can get pretty close with the @Wall Street Journal personal finance guides. Again, providing a link right to the newly made guides. And the way we'd like to bundle our products, we think, we could bundle the new personal finance guides as well as the new personal finance newsletter, as well as some other resources on the website, like the personal finance, your money section and other web articles. And we could also partner this with the Wall Street Journal for professors, having it incorporated in there, as mentioned earlier. And for the price, as Grant mentioned earlier, that under $5 threshold seems to be very popular with this target demographic. And this falls a lot in line with student discounts for Hulu, Spotify, and Apple Music as well. As for our milestones, we'd like to finish our design phase by June 2020. And here we would be forming our team and having them redesign the personal finance guides, as well as creating the personal finance newsletter, specifically the template for it and how they're going to be able to implement that later on. And then by July 2020, we'd like to have our pre-launch phase completed. Here we'd be focusing on that search engine optimization process, as well as assigning our university ambassadors right before the school year starts and distributing it to the social media influencers. By the end of August 2020, we'd like to be in our launch phase where the ambassadors at universities are able to distribute the new newsletters to their friends and colleagues. And we'd also like to have our advertising on social media beginning as well, through social media influencers, as well as through standard advertising channels on social media. And in the future, we see this as our potential for a growth phase. We'd like to explore other delivery methods, exploring a podcast that's really geared towards that 18 to 35-year-old demographic, as well as exploring some interactive videos that can help explain topics and looking into sustainable products within this product line. And now I'll be passing it off to Austin and talk to you guys about the finances.
Thanks, Ryan. I'm going to go over our financial analysis, includes assumptions and projections. There's really two main revenue sources. First being newsletter advertising. We project to initially start with around 5,000 subscribers. This will generate a $5 per subscriber revenue. We think this is a relatively conservative number because the Morning Brew, one of the competitors, makes around roughly $7 per subscriber. So this puts us in a pretty good spot. And then going forward, we would have a 10% growth rate The second revenue source is advertising. To give you perspective, around 25% of Americans, especially now given the situation with the coronavirus, this is pre-corona, really worry about personal finances. And there's roughly 76 million people in the US 18 to 35. Of that, we think we can capture around 0.25% and grow at about 0.5%. The reason for this is that we feel that with the content being delivered through that paywall that we've discussed, and with search engine optimization, that's kind of a relatively conservative number to expect. There's really three big areas of expenses, including distribution, salary and benefits, and promotion. Our research shows that really, like, the Wall Street Journal is a largely online business, and so this is really the only expenses that we will have through this. To break down the salary and benefits more, we will pay 2 journalists, one of those acting as in a managerial capacity, and then having like a IT specialist on hand also to help support our SEO and other aspects of the business. Here's like the graph that we expect our net profit to grow at. As you can see, we initially lose money in the first year, and then we break even in March of 2021. The yearly profits will be roughly, in year 1, we'll lose about $88,000. And then in year 2, we're going to make roughly 1.1 million. We project that after that, our numbers will kind of taper off and our growth rates will deaccelerate, and that then the numbers in the following years will likely steady out. And then we think that this will put us in a pretty good financial place for the path forward going ahead.
Thank you, Austin. So in closing, we had specific goals that the management team from Wall Street Journal provided to us. We were given a basic product that had excellent content, and we were asked to make it attractive to new audiences for the Wall Street Journal and the 18 to 35-year-old target group. We needed to discover what this audience wanted, and we accomplished this through effective research. Out of the research that we did, we developed products that appealed to our 18 to 35-year-old segment. To make this profitable for Wall Street Journal, we presented a promotional plan that motivates the audience to purchase subscriptions. And finally, we showed how this will help Wall Street Journal gain profits in a sustainable fashion. We now feel our plan is ready to be successfully implemented by the Wall Street Journal team, and we feel that this is going to benefit them for a long period of time to come. So thank you for your consideration, and now we will take any questions that you might have.
Okay, judges, you're up now with questions that you might have.
As Tom Rose, I have one. Can you tell me about the survey that you did where you got the 900 responses? Discuss some of your limitations of that survey and who that was directed toward again. You may have said it, but I missed that.
Yeah, so
there were definitely some limitations due to our personal networks and with the university at our disposal. The majority of our responses were more from the 18 to 25 age group. And we also, again, because of our backgrounds, were able to target mostly people in the business and journalism schools.
And I have a follow-up question to that. I also was wondering about more of the details with the survey. Did you survey current subscribers or non-subscribers, or was that a combination of who you surveyed?
So in order to not kind of influence the responses, we did not identify ourselves as working with the Wall Street Journal. So since the journal is trying to bring in new subscribers, we just targeted people in this age demographic to get a sense for where they're at currently and then where we can meet them.
It might be important as you think through the data that you collected to identify, and maybe it's not subscribers specifically, but there are likely some individual respondents that have a different tendency to become a subscriber based on personal interests or other sorts of demographics. So it just might be worth exploring a little bit more to make sure that you are drawing conclusions, holding some things constant or controlling for some things that might be important that could just influence the results that you're getting.
Yeah, I was kind of, oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just going to ask other questions about the survey. Did you distribute the survey through email, or did you hand out paper surveys? What was your response rate? Some of those things.
There was a link to the survey online on Mizzou's Qualtrics platform. So we were able to distribute it to different classes on Canvas, which is the learning tool that we use here. So we were able to have a couple different professors distribute it to their larger classes in at different levels.
Fantastic.
Also, we distributed on LinkedIn as well. We felt that a lot of our professional network were that exact audience that we were looking for. So we were really happy to get their opinions as well.
I thought that you found out some really interesting snippets through the survey. I am really interested about this seasonal effect of wanting more information about personal finances during certain times of the year, which makes sense. But I think that also can really help you guys and the Wall Street Journal hone in on the timing or the cyclical nature of a product like this. So that I thought was really interesting. One other thing that I am just wondering if you thought through, it seems like your primary target audience is individual subscribers, but you kind of started to talk on this idea of professors or some other almost B2B or business to higher ed institution type of relationship. Can you talk to us a little bit about whether or not you thought of other target audiences or how that might come into play?
Certainly. I think that in large part, the B2B is something that wasn't our primary focus. I think that the goal that the Wall Street Journal had for us was to focus on the B2C, that 18 to 35. But I think that the way we would reach that and the way we looked at it was to do that delivery through educational platforms. We spoke with a representative at like Columbia Public Schools, and they don't really have a perfect way to deliver financial education. And really, like, we thought that, that's the initial way to hook people, is to get these students in the beginning and bring them in and really keep them from when they're like 15 years old.
Well, and I think that this idea is really exciting and interesting, especially given the conditions that we're all operating under right now, where educators at every level are just, we're so hungry for different ways to deliver content in a virtual space that there really maybe is an opportunity there for the Wall Street Journal to help provide some of that content that really does hook, so that at 15 years old or 18 or 24 or whatever age our students are, they already know of a resource where they can get that financial information because it's being delivered to them in a more formal setting. So I found that to be really interesting. Great.
I have a question also, kind of as you do your evaluation, a negative evaluation is a question of, why don't people seek out the Wall Street Journal? What do they not like about the Wall Street Journal? Maybe the Wall Street Journal might be interested in that.
I think it has to do with that kind of like old man stigma, that, like old people, or at least like it's not geared specifically for that 18 to 35-year-old range. And like we were talking about in one of my slides, that really like the personal finance guides are the how-to guides, I guess you could say, are very bland. They don't have any tools. They don't have any imagery. They don't have any visualization. So it's, this is the way that that the 35-year-old wants to receive this information is really just like the stark opposite of the way they're delivering it right now.
I think also, as you talked about with your survey, that you kind of had the 25 and under demographic, I think for that 25 to 35, you also start looking at, these are young families too. So that family approach with those people and how their finances related to that.
Yeah, that was actually going to be my question. Did you guys consider further segmentation of the list, either by age or maybe by like life milestones or anything like that?
Absolutely, yeah. Especially as we get into those different times of life. I think what's going to be even more important is considering the different topics that are most important to them. So it's a pretty wide age group to generalize as, this monolith, because it's two starkly different times of life. And so you're right, we moving forward, we would need to really address those two as separate groups, I think.
Yeah, well, and I don't even know if it's two groups. I think maybe milestones, because people reach milestones at different times. Some people have kids at 25 and some people have kids at 35. And so I think maybe if you're segmenting on, if you consider like the types of financial things people are researching and consider those products, kind of having different, maybe targeting our list for those products might be more beneficial. Also, I noticed that you guys mentioned that you did a survey through LinkedIn, but then you didn't actually list LinkedIn as a platform that you would advertise this through. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, that's we didn't utilize that as a specific marketing channel, because we find that through Facebook and Twitter, Instagram, those and TikTok, those tend to target that 18 to 35-year-old demographic the best. But I'm definitely open to advertising on LinkedIn as well. I think that's a good suggestion and a good idea.
Yeah, I'm 32 and I don't use TikTok or Twitter, but I'm on LinkedIn every day, so that's all I'm asking. Okay, and then you guys mentioned profits. Is that all from subscriptions? Or are you also taking an ad revenue on the products, or where are those coming from?
The profits are coming from two different areas. One is through the newsletter, basically subscription, and then in kind of like the ad revenue associated with that. And so that'll be roughly like $5. And we got that number based on the morning brew, which was roughly $7. And so we thought that was a conservative estimate. And then the second number is kind of like the more traditional, I guess you could say, approach, like through core website ad revenue. And we think that number is going to be, I guess, less aggressive. And the reason for that is because of that paywall, and there's like the search engine optimization that'll happen, that we think that they'll only be able to capture a much smaller portion of the market.
Okay, so you're not offering, like, people couldn't buy advertising products like sponsoring the newsletter or things like that, or they could. That's what I'm trying
I think that to some extent that on the website we will offer that, but that necessarily isn't the primary focus. And we think that that the partners that we would work with that would have that advertising, I guess you could say, banner, they would have to be very niche, because we think that the Wall Street Journal doesn't have like, you can't be sponsoring like financial advisors, or financial advisors can't be up there, because that affects the credibility of the people. And so I think the partners would be very limited that we would use, but we would use the banner.
Can I ask a question, please?
Yeah.
So what is the difference between the newsletter and the how-to guide? And how much do those cost, or are they bundled together?
So the newsletter would be free and it would be supported by ad revenue. They're fairly similar, but they are individualized enough that bringing someone into the free platform like a newsletter, we're hoping that that would sort of encourage people or make people want to get one of our bundled subscriptions. So just kind of draw people into the name, the Wall Street Journal name, and associate it more as something, a tool that is relevant to them. And we're hoping to bring in subscribers that way.
So what is the difference between the content on the newsletter and the content available through the subscription thereafter?
So the bundle, I think Ryan can speak to that, but the content on the newsletter, again, is very similar. It's a little bit more of an abbreviated version and has some different examples. So they're similar, but they're not the same.
Can you guys go back to that slide where you're explaining the bundles? Because I'm getting a little bit confused. Some of it is some of it free and then they subscribe? Or what is the $5? That's a subscription to what? Just the newsletter?
So just to clarify, the $5 is the ad revenue being generated. So okay,
Yeah.
so let me take a step back. There's two different things. The $5 is the ad revenue that we're gonna project, and then this is $4.99. That's gonna be the bundled price. So like the bundled price will include like basically the core website generation, the core website things that the Wall Street Journal already has. So it's going to be a discounted bundle that will include all these different things. Does that make sense?
Tell me exactly what's in the bundle.
What you have.
The personal finance guides,
yeah,
the finance newsletter that's delivered via email Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
And so like we're
I think Ryan can take this.
Yeah.
And by the way, this will be our last question.
Yeah, so for the $4.99, that is currently actually to subscribe for the Wall Street Journal as a student is about $1 a month.
Okay.
Or sorry, $1 a week. And so about $4 per month. And under that same subscription, which our research showed to be a very good price, that under $5, that would also include the new personal finance guides, access to the new newsletter, or at least the opportunity to sign up for it, as well as all the other resources on the website, including just the digital subscription to the Wall Street Journal as a student, as well as having access to that Wall Street Journal for professors.
Okay. So the student subscription or the subscription for a new subscriber will be relatively the same as just subscribing to the Wall Street Journal. You're just providing additional value through these things.
We are definitely, that additional value is a big part of it. And something that was very important to the Wall Street Journal is a problem they were having was retaining student subscribers after they lose that student status. So we were trying to kind of bridge the gap with this.
Makes sense.
Okay, let's take a couple of minutes here for the next team to get loaded and also for our judges to make their score sheet, to complete their score sheets.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
While the judges are completing their score sheets, why doesn't Team Muck Rock get their slides up? There we go.
Oh, shoot.
Judges, are you ready for the next presentation? Okay, I'm seeing yes there. Scott, would you like to present Mike Morrissey, please?
Yes, it's been a great honor to be involved in this class these last 2 years, and this semester is no exception to that. We have had the opportunity to not only work with some great students who are going to introduce themselves in a little bit, but also with a very interesting and vital organization, I think, especially given our current situation as far as news media and need for investigative reporting. So I'm very happy to introduce Mike Morrissey, who's been just an excellent partner to help us not only have a good project to work on, but also help give us the access that we needed to complete this project. So I'll turn it over to Mike.
Yeah, I'm so honored to have gotten a chance to work with this class. They provided just such incredible feedback and helped us think through some really challenging issues. So we're a little bit smaller than the Wall Street Journal and the Associated Press. We're a 9-person organization, and that's after we almost doubled in size last year. And we've been growing a lot through sort of mergers and acquisitions. We're a nonprofit newsroom that operates a number of different services used by other newsrooms, as well as our own editorial team focused on public records issues and information needs around the country. So we do a mix of technology, original reporting, but we also have a lot of brands. So we also run Document Cloud. We run a site called OTranscribe that's a transcription tool. And so as we're sort of thinking through sort of how do we kind of continue to sustain our operations and grow, one of the things that we've kind of noticed within our network is that we had a very rudimentary crowdsourcing tool and a very rudimentary crowdfunding tool. And we really wanted help sort of thinking through what can we do to kind of make these projects succeed, and what can we do to kind of turn this sort of side business or hobby that our organization has had into a meaningful part of our organizational structure in a way that helps newsrooms around the country grow their operations, as well as sustains our continued work. And so that was the kind of challenge. Hey, we've got all these puzzle pieces together, help us think through how they should actually fit together, and what do we need to do to continue to succeed at building out sort of a new vision of crowdfunding and sustainability for newsrooms around the country.
Great, well, we'll turn it over to the team then. Thank you, Michael.
All right, thank you guys. I'll just kind of start off the presentation here. I've had the opportunity to work with Michael and Scott throughout this semester, and been really excited about what we've been able to accomplish and the different information we've come across. And I think we've put together a pretty good presentation here. So before we get started, I just wanted to introduce the group here.
All right, good morning, everybody. My name is Miles Bakewell. I am the undergraduate that got to sneak into this class. Thank you very much, Professor Christensen. This has been an awesome opportunity. I am a senior in the Trask College of Business, pursuing my emphasis in management, and I will be graduating this coming May, and I will be commissioning as an intern into the United States Navy.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Alex Pierce, second year Crosby MBA student, originally from a small town outside Chicago, and had a great time working on this project this semester.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ryan Richmond. As with Alex and Josh, I'm also in the Crosby MBA program. Really excited to be a part of this project and originally from Chicago.
And my name is Josh Sharp. I am also graduating here in May from the Crosby MBA program, and I'm originally from Minneapolis, Minnesota. So just kind of an agenda about where we're going and what we're hitting on this presentation. Initially, we're going to do kind of an industry overview. Then we're going to go into a little bit more information about Muck Rock. Then we're going to go into some further detail about the crowdsourcing and crowdfunding products that they are offering. Then we're going to go into some market analysis, some potential challenges, any competition in this industry, then into some marketing and some kind of ideas for the product that we have and how to bring it to people. And then finally, we'll end with some Q&A. So really, this is a kind of a story about the decline of print media. As you can see here with both of these graphs, the print media has really experienced the decline in the past 20 years in terms of revenue. They kind of had their peak revenue in the early 2000s. And since the rise of the internet, there's really been a steep decline in the revenue that newspapers and print media are able to bring in. And as you can see, that's kind of been supplemented by kind of historic growth from Google revenue and starting off kind of in the late 2008, 2009, as Facebook has kind of come along and also taken a chunk out of that revenue from the newspapers. And not only has that revenue declined, but that newspaper circulation has declined. As you can see, newspaper circulation peaked in the 1960s with around 35%, and has seen a steady decline to where we sit today at about 10% of America receiving a newspaper. And this just really goes to a really big shift in news consumption. As you can see on the graph on the left, it's a little bit dated, but I really like this graph because it talks about how, or it kind of shows you immediately once smartphones and kind of mobile news took off. You can see when that kind of happened around 2008, 2009, once smartphones started getting into people's hands, the amount of people who got the news online or mobilely just skyrocketed. And that number has continued to climb. And kind of going further along, you can see that that print newspapers have dropped below social media and news websites and the way people get news. And there's still a large percent of people that get that news from television, but really the shifts and the trends show that people are really starting to get all their news online. We can go to the next slide here. I think this graph really shows that television is dominated by the audience kind of 50 and older for people who get their news source for TVs, and people 50 and under are really shifting more towards news websites. And even with that 18 to 29 demographic, people are really starting to get their news through social media more and more. And print media, or just media in general, really needs to kind of change how they acquire and retain readers. That's been a really huge problem as this shift has started to occur. So newspapers and print media have been slow to adapt to online, and there's so many options online that I think a key to the future of media online is just increased reader engagement. And I think there's a lot of need for support in this area. And I think that's where Muck Rock comes along. So the Muck Rock family, Michael kind of mentioned on a few products that they offer. They have a wide variety of products, but the three we're going to focus on today is Muck Rock, Document Cloud, and Assignments, which is kind of their crowdsourcing app or product. So initially, we'll start with Muck Rock. Muck Rock is a nonprofit Freedom of Information Act request site, and it brings together journalists, researchers, activists, and regular citizens to request, analyze, and share government documents. And their goal is to make politics more transparent and democracies more informed. It was founded in 2010, and their CEO and co-founder we met earlier, Michael Morrissey. Could you go back to that Muck Rock slide? Thank you. So like Michael said, they have about 9 staff members, and they are a 501c3 nonprofit. They have about 400 paid subscribers, which is a mix of individuals and kind of media sites or media companies. They also have about 30,000 free subscribers, and they bring in a subscription revenue of about $7,000 a month. And Document Cloud is their goal is to analyze, annotate, publish, and turn documents into data. It's a hosting service for online documents, and it is the backbone of the Muck Rock and Assignments platform. Document Cloud really helps Muck Rock and Assignments allow for these thousands of pages of government policies, and data to be put into document form. It allows you to analyze, to scroll through, to highlight and search key facets of the document, and is really just a kind of the key to Muck Rock and assignments. So moving forward, assignments is going to be this really great way to engage readers and to bring increased engagement from readers to media companies. And I'm going to let Alex go ahead and talk about this next section.
Yeah, thank you, Josh. So before we get too deep into what the assignments platform is, just a quick definition about what actual crowdsourcing is. So this is a great definition from the Oxford Dictionary that I think actually describes Muck Rock's assignments platform perfectly. So crowdsourcing defined as the practice of obtaining information or input into a task or project by enlisting the services of a large number of people, either paid or unpaid, typically via the internet. So as we'll see, this is exactly what Muck Rock's crowdsourcing platform does. It takes a large project, breaks it down into small pieces using a large number of people. Then obviously those results are then posted then on the internet. So to dive into the assignments page, really assignments is designed to analyze large document sets that are obtained through the Freedom of Information Act requests. So at least a huge efficiency by utilizing the public efforts. It's no longer a team of journalists sifting through thousands of pages of data. This data can then be published online and sifted through by the public. And everything is hosted through the document cloud site, as Josh talked about earlier. The assignment creator, which could be a newsroom in this case, typically is a newsroom, controls all the requested information. So whether that's questions to be answered based on the information provided, or even to kind of summarize what is in a piece of data that's obtained. So really the questions or the information to be retrieved is kind of endless. The documents that are typically in these huge data sets are broken down into random sets for the contributors to analyze, typically one page. I'll have an example here coming up. So it breaks down these huge document sets into really small pieces that are easier to analyze. The contributions are then utilized by the creator in the form of a spreadsheet. So they can take that data and the answers and just kind of do some data analysis through Excel, sorting the answers and things that way. So it makes the data really easy to go through. It's also an easy way to engage Muck Rock's 30,000 current subscribers. So you have these subscribers reading newsletters or visiting Muck Rock's website for news. It's a great way just to take that subscriber and user one step further and really get them involved in the process. So here's a quick kind of cute example of the assignments platform. Typically you have some kind of data or document on the right side. In this case, it's an Instagram post of a dog there, Lily. And then on the left, you have questions to be answered about that data. So in this case, that first question, what did dog rates rate the dog? You can see there in the bottom, the description of the Instagram post is a 13 out of 10. So that would be the information then that the provider or the assignment creator would then see by the contributor who put that in that answer there. So that second question could also be subjective. It could be, what do you think the correct rating is, or what is the main points of this article? And then you could also have kind of a drop-down menu there, that third question, for answers that you want specific categories for. So kind of on the back end, on the creator side, this is what one version of what you would see in the answers. So you can actually link these back to the actual data, so you can see the specific document that the answers come from, but it lists out all the answered questions there. And like I said earlier, it can also be accessed via Excel in that way as well. So here's a bit more of a real life example. This is breaking down the Mueller report and going through the redacted portions. So you can see there in that description of helping Muck Rock give a first pass read through the Mueller report. Then there at the end, it says identifying new items to FIOA as well. So it's not only going through the document that's already been provided, but searching out new documents that can be requested that through Muck Rock as well. So if you look down on the fourth question there on the left, is how many separate redactions are there on this page? You can see the 3 different grand jury redactions there on the right. So that would be the answer then that you would put in that section. And then kind of continuing Muck Rock's user experience through the crowdfunding platform. So like we mentioned before, we have readers of Muck Rock, people that go on the website and read through the newsletter or read the news on the website to then become contributors through the crowdfunding platform assignments. So that's just taking them one step further in getting more involved in the journalism process and kind of going through these large document sets that Muck Rock has obtained. And then continuing that experience to the crowdfunding platform, becoming financial supporters. So a hypothesis that we've talked about with Michael quite a few times is that when people participate for non-monetary compensation, they're more likely to contribute financially. So if we can get the readers to become contributors, they're then more likely to become financial supporters as well. So it's really just bringing the whole Muck Rock user experience into one and just keeping people flowing through this experience. Then just to wrap up some of the benefits of Muck Rock's kind of family of services here, specifically with Document Cloud, it's the ability to filter through those large amounts of data very quickly. So it promotes that investigative journalism by kind of using the public efforts and not relying on just one newsroom or a team of journalists as well. So with that, there's reduced costs. You have less internal labor required. So there's less maybe newsroom affiliated people going through the documents and finding the information. Additionally, the user participation will increase because people will be then involved in the combing through the data and be involved in the journalism process. And with that, you get an increased focus. So if you know what assignments that your readers are participating in, you know exactly what they want their news to be and what articles they want to see and what information they want to know. And then finally, on the crowdfunding side, obviously financial contributions. So like Josh was talking about, with revenues declining of print media, the financial contribution will be a huge part of this platform for newsrooms as well. And with that, I will pass it on to Miles for some market analysis.
Alex, thank you so much. So when our team initially came together when we were going to work with Muck Rock, one of the default things that we kept coming to was the fact that Muck Rock was so unique in their own nature. They had unique client base, they had unique capabilities, and every time we kept saying that, we decided that we needed to actually break down what was this unique factor. And what we came to was that Muck Rock offers this great navigation tool for sifting through all this information in regards to the Freedom of Information Act. And it's a tool that both the consumer, for the individual, and the newsroom could use for their own purposes in that regard. So while it seemed daunting and it was a little confusing on our part to truly understand from the get-go, it was relatively simple in what they were delivering to their customers. And because of that fact, because Muck Rock understands that, they're able to establish this great reputation in their particular market, not only with their customers, but also through the word of mouth of those that deal with those customers as the secondary relationships. And so by having this great established relationship, not only with their clients, they also have these established relationships with the newsrooms as well. So specifically, we talked about when we were collaborating with Muck Rock, why would customers pay for these services that were unique to Muck Rock? And that was one of the strengths that we found, was that Muck Rock as this tool is providing relief to journalists, specifically in their workload, when they're trying to navigate through this potentially daunting assignment of trying to get this information. Muck Rock is there to help ease them and to help navigate in regards to, okay, we're going to help you, we're going to figure it out, and we're going to get you what you need. So there is that sense of two-way communication. Muck Rock being the smaller team that Michael talked about earlier, they're able to give that great quality service. And so from there, there is increased user engagement, those that want to come to Muck Rock, not only from hearing about their great reputation, but seeing for themselves the product that Muck Rock is helping them deliver. And from there, the higher revenue would come from the increased user engagement. With this increased user engagement, Muck Rock is always focused being nonprofit. They wanted to deliver this great service and to ensure that when they expand, they'd be able to plug it back in to help operate Muck Rock, but as well, they wanted to make sure that moving forward, that at every single step, they're ensuring to give that great quality service. So in terms of the market that we are penetrating with Muck Rock, we found that from a survey that we did with their paid members right now in terms of the Muck Rock family, that Muck Rock was doing a fantastic job in their penetrated market that we were aiming for. What we wanted to do specifically is that the user base was feeding back to Muck Rock that they were happy with the service. They wanted to make sure that we were clearly communicating so that way we could understand the needs and the changes of our clientele as Muck Rock was moving forward. And we found that just simply by doing what Muck Rock had set themselves from the beginning to do, which was to offer the best quality service that they could for their customers, that was how they were going to expand not only from their target market, but as well to the qualified available market. So that way the individuals and the newsrooms that weren't currently using Muck Rock, through the word of mouth of our customers that were very satisfied knowing that Muck Rock was who they wanted to reach out to, they'd be able to establish that. So from there, we had the pricing strategies and the financials for our Muck Rock customers. what we came to the conclusion from working with Muck Rock and what we said as a group is that the #1 focus is the quality and the care that we're going to give to our customers. That's what Michael and his team have always been concerned about, and that's the focus that we're going to have as the nonprofit in Muck Rock. So one model that we considered would be a subscriber-based model. There'd be a baseline payment for not only the individual users, but for the newsrooms as well. This would be based on their subscriber count and as well the value that Muck Rock would be providing for them from not only the individuals, but also the numbers of consumers that the newsrooms would be using this information to pass on to. From there, we also consider the crowdfunding, which would be a % of the total value from the contribution of the information that they're receiving. So as an individual, if you have a project that you're interested in and you wanted to pursue further about, that would be different in regards to the amount that we would be charging to, say, a larger, more established organization. We want to ensure that both the individual and as well organizations would have a path that they could pursue in terms of Muck Rock. And then what we wanted to also consider was the fact that through our quality of service and through the promotion of word of mouth, that we could focus less on specifically marketing and more about taking the revenue from this profit and put it back into the organization. We wanted to make sure that everything was in line with the goals and the visions that Muck Rock had set out from the beginning. And with that, we came to the conclusion that the distribution model that we wanted to try from the get-go would be a 3-month free trial base for those that are currently already in the Muck Rock family. From there, what this would look like would be a 2-way communication. The subscribers would get 3 months of the free trial of services that we wanted to either try or test run for potential bugs. So that way we could have that communication for those that are using Muck Rock to say, hey, this is what I really like. This is what you guys are doing really well. Please continue this or fix this. And then Muck Rock, from having this information, responds to that accordingly from there. And I will hand it off to Ryan with some of the challenges.
Thanks so much, Miles. Hello again, everyone. So as with any business, including Muck Rock, there's going to be some challenges, some obstacles that they have to overcome. I'm going to talk about a few of those today, as well as some things that we think Muck Rock is doing very well, and then also some recommendations that we have for them to consider as they continue to grow this crowdsourcing and crowdfunding platform. Let's go and move on to the next slide, Alex. So first, COVID-19. I'm not going to talk about this too much just because we hear about this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But it's definitely something that Muck Rock needs to consider and has considered. Earlier this year, the first case was announced. And at the time, little do we know how much this would have an impact on the world that we live in today. But we also think that Muck Rock can use this as an opportunity to potentially grow their user base. Talking from personal experience, being the stay-at-home order, you have a little bit more time at home, a little bit more free time. So they potentially could add additional users that have that extra time on their hands to start sifting through some of this data on their crowdsourcing platform. So yes, COVID-19 is changing the world as we know it. We also think that Muck Rock can use this as an opportunity to gain some of those people that have a little bit more free time on their hands that want to contribute their time and maybe their funds to Muck Rock. So next, we're going to look a little bit deeper into the competition. So we're going to click to the next slide. There's four main areas or 4 main competitors that we're going to talk about. The last two are going to talk a little bit more in detail, but first I want to cover individuals. So that's like you and me, individuals that are at home, that are sifting through their own data, creating their own investigative reporting. We need to consider individuals that do this that don't use Muck Rock's platform and just kind of do it on their own as a competitor to Muck Rock. So the next two that we're going to look at, just want you guys to keep in mind as we go through this. I think what you guys are going to start to realize is that we have yet to find a competitor that does exactly what Muck Rock does. They have different aspects and components of what Muck Rock does, but we have yet to find a competitor that you would say, hey, that sounds just like Muck Rock, which is a good problem to have. So first, we're going to look at Patreon. All these 3 companies are relatively new. Patreon was founded in 2013. They provide the tools for creators needed to acquire, manage, and energize their paying fans. So I want you guys to think back to when YouTube first started. There was a lot of creators, there was a lot of content, but these creators were just not getting paid for their work. And Patreon is really trying to make sure that those that are putting in the work are getting rewarded for it. So they allow fans to pay these creators directly. Right now, there's about 100,000 creators on Patreon's platform. There's about 3 million patrons. So when I say patrons, I'm talking about individuals that are paying these creators for this exclusive content and ultimately for them to continue creating this content that they love to look at, to enjoy. This is a way that the creators get rewarded for their work. So this is on a subscription base. Each month, these patrons pay a monthly subscription to these creators. to continue to make this content. And it's pretty amazing. Since 2013, they've paid out about $1 billion to date. So pretty significant. It's great to see these creators getting paid for their work. So next, founded in 2017, is Substack. The previous group, Wall Street Journal, talked about the Morning Brew, and which is a newsletter that comes straight to your email. What Substack does is provides the tools necessary to create and start your own newsletter and get it out to those that would like to read it. So this is just by creating something on Substack does not mean that you necessarily have to charge for it. There is the option if they want to charge a subscription for this newsletter. But ultimately, what Substack is doing is providing the tools necessary for individuals that want to start their own newsletter to do so, and then get it out to those in the email boxes that those that want to read it. And then lastly, founded in 2015 is Hearken. So they're an audience-driven framework where they partner the content creators with the general public. So a perfect example of this, just to kind of best explain this, is if I'm a creator, and let's just say I want to start a news article, it might be best to just see, before I put the time and the effort into creating this article, to make sure that there's interest out there. So what I'll do is I'll use Hearken to come up with an idea of a topic that I'm going to talk about. They will partner me with the general public, and I'll say, hey, is this something that you would be interested in? Is this something that you would read before I put all this work in to find out that no one's interested in it? So Hearken's really getting at trying to make sure that there's interest there before a creator goes forth and puts the effort to, whether it's an article, a video, whatever the case may be, they're really there just to make sure that the interest is there before it's released to the public. So next is marketing and awareness. So we can go ahead and click to the next slide. These are a few things that we want to make sure that Muck Rock continues to do, which first is to continue to keep the relationships and reputation with current news outlets. We think this is going to be vital when they continue to grow their brand, to have these news outlets behind their back, to speak highly upon Muck Rock and their platforms. As they continue to grow the user base, we think that this word of mouth from the news outlets is going to be vitally important, where they can talk to their users, they can talk to other news outlets they know to say, hey, you should join in Muck Rock's portfolio and their crowdsourcing and crowdfunding platform. Next, a little bit about awareness and brand recognition. We think that they should continue increasing this awareness and brand recognition to add to their current user base. I think the biggest thing I want you guys to take away from this is we talked about in the previous slides, competitors. We also see this as potential partnerships for Muck Rock. Those three are, like I mentioned, are different aspects of Muck Rock, but there is yet to be one competitor that we think is exactly like Muck Rock. So we think this is a great opportunity for them to potentially partner with these competitors to add to their user base. Next, as they continue to add to their user base and grow their portfolio, we want them to take a one brand approach. As we first started learning about Muck Rock with Michael, it took us a little bit of time to understand Muck Rock and the different services that they provide. Through this presentation, you guys heard a lot of names from Muck Rock to Document Cloud, to assignments, to crowdsourcing, to crowdfunding. We want them to consider taking a one brand approach, where when you think of Muck Rock, you know of everything that falls underneath it. You're not confused by Muck Rock and Document Cloud. Taking that one brand approach, because the last thing we want to happen is when they try to add additional users, that they become so confused with what Muck Rock really is that they move on to a different competitor. So we really want them to consider maybe just using Muck Rock for all their services, or Document Cloud for all their services, whatever they choose, but going towards that one brand approach we think would be vital. And then lastly, word of mouth is key. We realized early on that Muck Rock is known for their swag. So talk about a great way to enhance that word of mouth, whether it's through someone wearing a shirt in the city of New York, or drinking the Morning Joe cup of coffee in the morning out of a Muck Rock cup. So we think this is going to be vital. We know right now from the marketing side, it's probably one of the first things that people are going to cut with COVID-19 in the current situations. We want them to try to ramp up and provide as much marketing and swag as they can, because we think this is going to be vital in their success down the road. And then just two more things that we want to talk about before we open up for questions. Muck Rock has a weekly newsletter that they send out to people's email, This is the week's top news. And what's really cool about this is they actually use their crowdsourcing platform, the data that they get from it, to create some of these articles. So it's pretty cool to see being put into action. But one thing that we noticed is that they try to grow this crowdsourcing crowdfunding platform is they have an ad within the newsletter, and it's actually at the bottom of the newsletter. So we want them to consider changing the position of the ad, because we think not enough people are seeing that ad. Whether it's at the top of the article, that's one of the first things you see, or in the middle where they have to see this ad to continue reading. We think that this would ultimately increase the amount of people that are seeing this ad, and then leading to more people that are going to be a part of this crowdsourcing and crowdfunding platform. Just a minor switch, but something that we think can be vital to this newsletter and to market this crowdfunding and crowdsourcing platform. And then lastly, before we open for questions, something we talked a lot about as a class, as a group, and also with Muck Rock is, hey, where else could this crowdsourcing and crowdfunding platform be used? We think this is a great tool, and as we continue to grow the user base, we want to also look at different industries that this may be able to be applied to. So we talked about TV newsrooms, we talked about research, specifically on the academic side, getting involved with universities. Within the law industry, there's just a plethora of data, whether it's from different statutes, rules, regulations that vary by state, by county, by cities, that this could be a vital resource for those that need it in the law industry. And then lastly, given that Muck Rock is a non-for-profit, we want them to consider getting involved with other non-for-profits, other volunteer organizations we think would be vital to be a part of those industries. So with that, we wanted to thank you guys so much for being here today. We had a great opportunity this semester to work with Muck Rock, to work with Michael. We thoroughly enjoyed it. And with that, we want to open up for any questions that you may have.
Okay, judges.
Great job. I have a question about the transition to the subscription model. Have you put together any analysis on how many subscribers you project to garner after switching?
Yeah, we did. I think our initial on the initial subscriber, I think was 1,500, and then growing at 10% a month was our initial thought there. It was rather kind of a rough estimate, really. We didn't really have a plethora of data to go through, so that was just kind of a rough estimate. That's something we thought was attainable with Muck Rock. I mean, they have 30,000 free subscribers right now, so we thought 1,500 of those would be a wise guess.
A couple questions. One is, how do they guarantee? So you're talking about a customer and then moving to being a contributor on the platform. How do they control the credibility of the information or what the contributors are contributing? And doesn't that then speak to just the quality of Muck Rock itself? How's that controlled? And the second question is, what would make somebody want to be an actual contributor?
Yeah, I think those two both go kind of hand in hand. So there is a secondary back-end different version of the crowdsourcing platform that you see is a more of a kind of a checks and balance. So you see somebody's answer and you can confirm that answer as well. So there is something we brought up in class, and most everybody's kind of brought this up. There is that you think there's that potential for bias, but it kind of gets checked on the back end as well, at least once. So there's a bit of a checks and balance there. Then the second part of your question is, why do people want to contribute? I think that's just if they're really interested in the topic and want to know more about it, they would then take that opportunity to put in their time and effort to also see what the result of that maybe investigative story is. So it's kind of something that if you're interested in it and you feel like it's something that needs to be reported, you would then be compelled to participate in that crowdsourcing effort.
Yeah, just kind of going off of what Alex said, I think that's a really good point about the checks and balances. I know that was a major concern that I had kind of coming into this. How does that affect journalists who really need to be biased? So there probably needs to be some overlooking of the sourcing projects from the newsroom's perspective. You got to be careful there. And then I think one other reason why people might want to contribute is it's a chance to build a community, and when you can get people involved in a community, it really brings people together and makes them passionate about it, and makes them want to contribute and be a part of something bigger than themselves.
Kind of related, will there be any way to stop like nefarious actors, so people that are purposely maybe, or groups of people, like there have been times where there have been online contests or various things where like troll groups will get together or anonymous will get together and purposely try to like mislead things? Is there any type of like internal review for that type of thing, or is it all just community-based policing?
I think at this point it's based, but it also kind of be on the newsrooms as well to kind of fact check and make sure that if there is anybody acting in that way, that those responses are caught and kind of analyze the second time for that those bad actors.
I have a question. Muck Rock is fairly complex as far as there are multiple products or services in some ways targeting different audiences is my understanding, but you've suggested this one brand approach. So to make that a little bit more palatable, if Muck Rock is to exist under this one brand, what is that brand's mission? What does Muck Rock do if you had to sum it up so that anyone who comes across Muck Rock could understand what that organization is doing and what it's all about?
I think it's a great question. I think the biggest thing that Muck Rock is trying to get at is increasing government transparency, is the overarching understanding of what Muck Rock does. But I think what I was trying to get at as a group, what we're trying to get at as the one brand approach is this, that even speaking from our experiences, at first it was just a little bit confusing to understand Muck Rock, all the different brands, and kind of what falls underneath this Muck Rock scope. So when we talk about Muck Rock's mission or goal to try to increase their user base, we think that just trying to alleviate any confusion, that the last thing we want to happen is for a customer to come and say, what is it, what's Muck Rock, what's Document Cloud, what falls under which, and get so confused that they actually move on to a different product. So with the one brand approach, we're just trying to alleviate any confusion where there's one name that hey, this is Muck Rock, this is what they do, and this is who I want to support.
It seems like with that in mind, it's going to be really important to focus on it being so user-friendly to where I don't necessarily, as an audience member or as a potential customer, I don't necessarily need to understand all of the different facets, that instead I'm being almost pushed through and I don't even realize that I'm being pushed through. So I like this idea of this one brand, and I think that can really simplify things, but it seems like it will be important to, from the customer's perspective, understand how to walk them through the process more seamlessly.
Yeah, one thing we had talked about quite a bit and mentioned this to Michael, I believe, is kind of having a product on like let's say, for instance, like the Wall Street Journal wanted to get involved in this and do some crowdsourcing. They could have their own kind of version of it on their website, and the back end would just be Muck Rock. So they wouldn't even really know they were going to Muck Rock, but they'd be using the product and the platform on a different kind of front facing.
Okay, so what I'm hearing now is really this exploration of partnering with other organizations more so than a single individual user. And I'm sorry if I missed that, if that was part of the point earlier, but I think that really might open a lot of kind of bigger business or bigger deals with different customers for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of what. Go ahead.
I was going to ask kind of along those lines, if you do that, like let's say you partner with the Wall Street Journal, are you then offering exclusivity on like some of the data, or are you giving everybody the same data? How would you handle that?
And I'm just going to follow up on that question. I'm going to piggyback a little bit. In my line of work, data is super expensive. And so there is seemingly this push-pull between transparency and crowdsourcing and this community effort to essentially extract data from all of these sources. But at the same time, all of the customers, especially if you start looking at customers like, for example, the Wall Street Journal, they're also in competition with the other customers that are coming to Muck Rock. So could you speak to that? And Maria, I'm sorry if I changed the spirit of your question. I hope I didn't.
No, you're fine. You're along the same lines. And I also have a co-judge, as you might have noticed, so it's a little hard for me to
I think with the exclusivity of the data, correct me if I'm wrong, Michael, but I think just from the mission and basis of Muck Rock, I don't think that would be like, it wouldn't fit their mission of kind of getting this transparency and getting this government data out there. And then to go along with kind of being different, like the newsrooms being competitors, essentially, I think they would discover that the Muck Rock platform would be so helpful to them that they may want that exclusivity. But again, going back to Muck Rock's kind of the basis and the mission of Muck Rock is just making the policies and politics more transparent, that it may be not a financially sound decision, but it was just getting these platforms out there that can be used for, like Ryan said, even other things too, that it could be such vast, it could be such vast world that this is used in, then I don't think that exclusivity would be something that Muck Rock is interested in.
So yeah, just to clarify, we do actually, so we try to find incentives to encourage organizations to share, but we do sort of understand like a newsroom is working on a big story. So we have embargo tools so that newsrooms can keep something as private as long as they want. But we try to find incentives to kind of eventually make that material public. So we do try to find nudges, and we do try to find ways that we make it in that news organization's interest to make things public. But for like the crowdsourcing tools, newsrooms have complete control over when and how something is ultimately published. Yeah.
So, Tom Russ here, I get, my understanding is that a lot of the information you have is public knowledge information anyway, that anybody should be able to have access to. And then I guess to the student groups, one of the things I heard about, you were talking about decreased revenue through advertising for these newspapers and whatnot. So how is this helping them, these newspapers, financially, by taking a burden off their journalists, or what?
Yeah, I think one thing that we talk a lot about is newspapers especially are having to cut staff, and they have fewer workers doing just as much work as they've always done. And we kind of see this as a tool to support them and allow them to kind of outsource some work and allow just kind of take that burden off of them and allow them to kind of produce the same quality of journalism with just having this tool be kind of an aid to them.
And then just to your point as well too about, this data being public, it absolutely is, but it's more of trying to find it, locate it where this data is at, and then also getting your hands on it. So I think Muck Rock, really what they do, especially through the FOIA request, is kind of alleviating that step, that bump in the road. Even though it's public, it still takes some time to find it and then also get it in your hands. And I think that's what Muck Rock does and specializes in very well.
I want to ask one more question. Can you talk a little bit more about the team required to execute the management or the marketing plan that you talked about?
Oh, sorry, I was hearing the phone in the background. So when we were focusing on marketing, specifically talking with Muck Rock, we knew that with the quality of service that Muck Rock had always been focusing on, that in that regard, we wanted to make sure that the word of mouth that was being given in specifically the community that Muck Rock is targeting in terms of who we're reaching out to, who's reaching out back to us, that there is a solid foundation there. And that was more what we wanted to focus on before moving forward, where we could take potentially new revenue and new profit and plug it into marketing. We thought one of our strengths as Muck Rock really was that great reputation is building upon itself, and it's gaining that momentum right now. So more of the focus right now is that we wanted to ensure that we're building upon the services that Muck Rock is currently offering, and moving forward, that if we saw that, hey, we feel very confident with who we are as Muck Rock as an organization, the services that we're providing in that regard, we could further move into marketing in the future to reach out even further to get the name of Muck Rock out there.
Is there any type of like incentivizing in terms of like contributors having ratings, badges, getting free stuff for doing more, anything like that? I'm just curious because I know you've got a user base already, and I didn't know if you were doing anything to kind of increase participation like that.
I think as a group, that's something that we definitely talked about, is trying to find ways besides monetary ways to increase engagement. I talked a lot about swag. It's something that we kind of learned about pretty quickly, is that Muck Rock is known for their very cool swag. So definitely something we've talked to Michael with, and as a group, is finding ways of, hey, if you meet a certain threshold, you've volunteered this many hours, or you've sifted through this much data, maybe you get a shirt, or maybe you get a mug. Absolutely, we definitely want to talk about ways that we can increase engagement through non-monetary ways.
And another thing we talked about, sorry, if I can just answer this.
Yeah, you go right ahead. This will be the last answer for the last question.
Okay. And we talked a lot about other sites and their successes that were kind of crowdsourcing sites such as like Reddit or LinkedIn, and how they kind of have those models. And that's something that we really wanted to build on, just kind of using their past success and kind of switching that into a different area.
Okay, let's let the judges now take a few minutes to tally their score sheets. And thank you very much, Muck Rock team. You did a great job and appreciate your presentation. While we're letting the judges tally their scores, can the team AP put up their presentation, please?
Thanks, everyone.
Can everyone see my screen?
I can.
Okay.
Yes. Looks good. Tom, Ashley, Rob, Maria, if you want to give me a wave if you're done. And okay, good. Ashley's done.
I remember Ashley from one of my classes. Ashley, didn't you teach BA 2500, 3500?
I've taught just about everything under the sun. So yes, I've taught all those classes before.
Awesome. Do you still teach or?
Yes, this year I taught the undergrad capstone course.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it's good to see you again.
Yeah.
All right, Team AP, I think we'll start off here. I'm going to start by introducing Catherine Sandler, who is the Manager of Partnerships for the Associated Press. Catherine has been a tireless mentor for our team and met with them for at least an hour every week and sometimes much more than that. She's been open to new ideas and strategies, and she's been particularly helpful as we took a pivot when the pandemic changed our lives and also changed the focus of our strategy. So, Catherine, I'm turning it over to you to introduce the team and the challenge.
Thank you so much, Randy. Yes, so my name is Catherine, and I'll just get right into it. So from the beginning, the request for this team was to go beyond the normal boundaries that AP has created for and distributed content to the last nearly 200 years, which is a challenge in itself. So in order to do that, we tasked the team this past semester with identifying an opportunity within the event services space, which focused on translating AP's core competencies into more skill-based practical events. So without getting too much into detail here, I'd like Christian, Ralph, Brett, and Caroline to take over and show us what you got.
Thank you, and good morning, everybody. And it's truly a pleasure to have you here with us, especially during these crazy times and adversity. And throughout this semester, we've really cultivated a strong relationship with the AP team, and they've really helped us move the needle on this project. And so it's really been a unique opportunity and some experiences that I will definitely be able to carry with me throughout my professional career. Now, my name is Brett Calhoun, and I'm a current MBA student at the University of Missouri. My undergraduate was in accounting, and I have a CPA, and I have professional experience in business valuations, early stage startups, and venture capital.
Hi, my name is Christian Geen. I'm also a Crosby MBA student. I plan on graduating in May 2021. And right now I'm interning at MIE, which stands for Missouri International Experience. And there I get to communicate with students from all over the world and get to teach them about basic principles on American business, as well as health and fitness. So it's been awesome.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ralph Chipoco. I'm actually a master's student at the Missouri School of Journalism. Prior to that, I started my career in science, actually, as a bio major, but transitioned, got my MBA and my master's degree in policy before becoming a reporter for about 4.5 years prior to coming to journalism school. So that's my background.
Morning, everybody. I'm Caroline Schultz. I'm also a Crosby MBA candidate. I'll be graduating this May. Similar to Ralph, my background was in the sciences. I got my Bachelor of Science in Geology from the University of Missouri. So I'm really excited to be here this morning.
Thanks, Caroline. Now we'll open up the floor to Christian Geen to give you an overview on our agenda.
Thank you very much, Brett. So before I get started, I want to point out that throughout this presentation, we're going to be referring the Associated Press as AP. So if you hear AP, just know that stands for Associated Press. With that said, let's get into the agenda. First and foremost, we're going to talk about the background of AP as well as the assignment we were tasked with, the product we came up with, as well as the prototype that we are currently working on. We'll talk about marketing in terms of strategy and opportunity. We'll show you guys our financial analysis we conducted, as well as implementation, what exactly this is going to look like in the future, what steps we need to take to get this thing going. So a little bit of background for those who don't know, AP is an American not-for-profit news agency. Its headquarters is, they're headquartered in New York. And boy, have they been around for a long time. They were founded in 1846. And any company that's been around for that long has my respect. They are obviously doing something right. They're the definitive source of independent journalism, where they cover every corner of the globe. They're also home to the AP Style Book. And for those who don't know what that is, please check it out. It's actually really fascinating. It's a product that they serve or offer. And it's pretty much media law in terms of grammar. And, you know, I'm a grammar freak, so I really like that. And it's trying to standardize mass communication. So it's an awesome product. Please check it out if you haven't. So as far as the project overview, we were tasked with the responsibility to come up with an event to create a new revenue source for AP. Now, due to the circumstances with COVID-19 going around, we decided to take a step back and pivot our angle on this. We don't think an event in the near future is the most appropriate way to go down, the most appropriate direction to go down. But most importantly, we saw a market trend. There is a demand for e-learning and it's rising. And we're seeing companies take advantage of this. LinkedIn is one of them with their LinkedIn Learning service. They've opened up 25 virtual workshops. And, you know, it's just a matter of time before we start seeing the Wall Street Journal as well as the Washington Post, you know, implement similar strategies. So, you know, we thought, who better than AP to, you know, take a similar approach? And that's when we came up with the idea to create a certification process through the AP. So once we came up with that idea, we created a survey that gauged the interests. We did our best to try to get it out to as many people as possible. We had over 100 people participate, and through MBA students, journalism students, and people just interested in the media, we found out that there was a demand. People were interested in this. So after that, we're now currently in the process of creating a prototype and establishing partnerships. Now, we had the awesome opportunity to talk to Randy Picht, who is the peanut butter and jelly to a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. He is a magic sauce when it comes to this. And what I mean by that is he's the executive director of the Reynolds Journalism Institute, and he also had a 29-year career at the Associated Press. So the synergy between RJI and the Associated Press is great. And, you know, he strongly felt that this product that we'll get into later would strongly benefit RJI as well as the Associated Press. So that was a big deal for us. And then, you know, a couple steps down the line, we'd ultimately love to put this product on the market. And, you know, speaking of product, I'm going to pass things off to Ralph, who's going to go into detail about the product as well as the prototype.
Hey, well, thanks, Christian. So if we're going to summarize this product in kind of a few words, it would be an online-based learning platform that's kind of meant to teach different skills that journalists need. So what we're starting with is a specific niche area with a specific technical skill. But what we think the advantage of this is that it can be scaled, not only in terms of its reproducibility, but also in terms of its different target markets. It can be applied, we can use different skill sets to apply to different markets and in terms of different industries. But so if we're gonna go to kind of the early, younger crowd, it's going to be journalism schools. It can be adapted to teach a range of journalism skills for people who are just starting out, from general reporting skills to how to write in narrative style to inverted pyramid and structuring the story. From there, we can move forward to actually the newsrooms themselves. So if the perfect example would be, let's say we're talking to a publication that just hired a business reporter, but kind of needs a background or a backgrounder in how to teach business reporting skills. We can teach things such as this platform can be adapted to teach basic accounting or finance, or even to the editors to kind of look over business stories in terms of editing and fact checking. So not only in terms of different life stages, because for people starting out and then for people who've actually entered the professional world, we actually want to adapt this platform to actually a completely different industry that uses the same skills as journalism does. So public relations, which is an industry that is badly needed and badly that uses AP style, but the margins could be a little bit higher there. Okay, so like I said, the best part of this is the fact that it can be adapted to just about any skill set that a journalist could want. So what kind of are those skills? There's a number of ways we can go about doing this. In terms of actually starting out, we were hoping to start with journalism institutions and journalism schools. There's a potential partnership that we can have with the Reynolds Journalism Institute, and that becomes pretty key because journalism schools, particularly this institution, kind of has an expertise with training and information delivery. But not only that, they also have an understanding of how to develop a curriculum, which is what the content will be in terms of how we're going to deliver this learning platform. So what can we do with it? We can, in terms of the skills we were kind of highlighting, it can be either technical, kind of audio software, and also video software, kind of editing skills, but also the intangibles. So data journalism, how to interview, what are the ethics involved in reporting, and also how to do interviews. But what we're really focusing on is kind of the writing, and a specific aspect of that writing is kind of AP style. So yeah, so we're kind of like focusing on that. We're going to start with that in terms of our niche market. This is a slide that actually, not because of the slide itself, but because I cringe a little bit, because across the top, you'll see is that those are the AP style errors that I have made in my 4.5 year career, at least a character of them. So kind of starting misrepresenting numbers, agencies that have been misnamed. And so the thing with me is I didn't get a foundation in AP style. I actually learned it on the job. And if I had a platform from which I could actually learn it and start and really solidify my grounding in those rules, I would actually be better off. But so this is where we're going to start. So what are we going to teach in terms of the actual platforms? We did some primary research where we did some focus groups and talked to students who are actually learning journalism at Missouri, and kind of one of the things, and what are the different types of skills that they learned in terms of what's one of the introductory classes that they took, and a lot of them were kind of foundational skills. So how to represent numbers, how to represent titles, how to represent people in this space, and also how to incorporate quotes. So those are the kind of the baseline foundational skills we were going to teach to get them started in terms of the journalism career, and then specific skill areas they'll learn kind of on the job as they're working in the student newsrooms in this area. So yeah. So how are we going to do this? E-learning, as Christian said before, has become kind of this has reached a seminal moment because of this pandemic. So we wanted to build on that. So think of this platform as kind of a mix of Khan Academy and in the Code Academy vein, where there'll be a desktop version that will list the syllabus and the skills that they'll learn. And it will start with the backbone of it will be text, and then with some video augmentation to teach the concept of those who kind of want core visual learners. But the key component of this is going to be the interactivity. So after that, there'll be a series of exercises that they'll complete, as long with some practice exams to kind of reinforce the concepts. And then the mobile version, which is on the next slide, is going to be very similar to that, where they'll be given information and they'll be forced to interact with the platform, either through answering questions or making corrections. These photographs are taken from, should reference this, but these are, one was Data Camp, which was kind of the desktop version, and this is kind of a platform that one of our collaborators, kind of Linda Austin, has done in terms of teaching kind of business skills in a workplace. So so those are kind of the two platforms we're thinking, depending on what the user interface is going to be, or depending on the time, or depending on how the user wants to interact with the product. Like I said, series of practice exams, series of exercises, and then there'll be a final exam to evaluate their learning of the concept. And if they pass enough of those, we were hoping to offer them a certification in AP style, which they can reference for resumes and potential job opportunities in the future. Okay, so a couple points with this. One is that price point is going to be pretty important. College students and grad students are pretty price sensitive, and so the ideal range that our respondents proposed was in the $5 per month range, which for a typical semester would be around from the $15 to $20 in total for each student. Another thing that they appreciated was the certification. They really think that, especially for print journalists, that the fact that they are certified in AP style makes them pretty attractive to employers, and that instructor buy-in is really important. From the quote below, if the instructors incorporate into the curriculum, it's going to be an attractive offer for students themselves. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to Caroline for the marketing.
Thanks, Ralph. So when we looked at this, we really wanted to understand and figure out, why do people need this? When we're trying to create a product, you always want to make sure that your consumer base is understanding and wanting that thing. So COVID-19 has really shown that there's a market for and a need for learning that's well beyond the normal training that companies can generally provide within HR. People are really wanting for their employees to participate in the learning just for the sake of it, because things are changing so rapidly, especially with technology and just how businesses are operating. So employers are wanting for their employees to have it as personal career development. And especially with this new shift to the online because of COVID, we really wanted to make sure that we were competing with companies such as LinkedIn and Wall Street Journal and Bloomberg, who already have some things online. So we wanted to create this almost like a virtual workshop, but instead of just having that, being able to create a certificate which will add the prestige to this particular class. So we had a survey at the beginning of our research, and we wanted to hone in order to be able to market this well. We came up with our key market descriptors of who, where, and how. We really wanted to focus on the 18 to 35-year-olds who are starting out wanting to get their skills up to a good spot within companies, so that way they can continue and have good clout with their employers. We want to focus on both male and female, people that generally will be looking to make a higher income, and the particular spots and niches we'd like to fit in are academia, businesses, journalism, and PR. Ideally, we'd like to begin in the US, but the AP, again, has so many different resources and so many spots globally that we think that we could be able to adapt this into certain niches around the world that could possibly give the AP a little bit more clout everywhere else as well. And then Ralph touched on this a little bit, but we'd like to do a subscription-based model with price variations in order to accommodate a whole bunch of users, because again, as Ralph said, students are generally very price sensitive, so we can tailor that to different decisions that people are wanting to do in order to get this product out there. So the features of this product would be that we would be able to provide a continuing education. The AP is really good at fact checking. They've been around for such a long time that this is one of their biggest strengths. So we'd really like to focus on this within the product and the classes. We'd also be able to offer the different packages through the subscription-based model. The AP brand itself is very prestigious, and we'd like to keep that as the high main focus of this. And then we also would like to keep it globally accessible. As Ralph said, we want it to be online, either on your desktop, on your laptop, and on your phone. People can access this and do it 10 minutes a day while they're standing in a Starbucks line. So the benefits of this particular product is that people will be able to gain tools for targeted niches within the academia, businesses, journalism, and PR sectors. It ensures their trustworthiness due to the increase in accuracy. Because the AP is so good at these things, we're able to provide those skills to other people, and that this particular training and this certification will allow them to prove to their employers that they've done the work and they've done the research to make sure that what they're providing is exactly what the AP provides. Another benefit is the flexibility within the pricing through offering the various packages. Again, as Ralph and I said, students are very price sensitive. So this allows them to have a little bit more of a flexibility regarding going through college and then getting out of college. It also allows employers to not feel as much of a hurt on the bank to be able to pay for their employers to do this. And then another benefit is that the AP has such a large network. This will be able to provide a lot of support for people as they're going through this. So when it comes to branding, we really want to focus on 4 main points and 4 things that the AP, again, does really well because these are their strengths. They've had facts checked and verified for 175 years. They'll provide a premium experience, and the AP being a newsroom, they've combated fake news for years. So we really want to focus on this and allow for that trustworthiness to really come through. And then the last part is that we will focus on global resources. Again, they've been around the world and they will be able to continue to do so. So those 4 things we really want to brand well within our marketing strategy. So our strategy for the future, currently we're testing out our prototype. We want to make sure that we're working out the kinks, doing a lot of consumer research, making sure that we're delivering what we promised. In 2021, we're hoping that we can create an awareness. Again, AP has a lot of different connections, so we're hoping to use social media and the spread of newsrooms and things like that to really make this product a big boom within the community, so that way people will know about it and really choose to use it. In 2022, we were wanting to have this product be launched, and we want to make sure that we're continuing to stay aware of our products and where it's being positioned. In order for us to do that, we want to make sure that we're increasing our market share, and this way we can drive changes and adapt the particular program if we need to in order to accommodate our consumers. And then 2023, hopefully this product will have been launched really well, and we can branch out globally and utilize, again, the AP's large network to provide the services to other countries and hopefully get this product out there to more people. And with that, I will pass it off to Brett to talk about our market opportunity.
Thanks, Caroline. Now, sizing up the market opportunity, we're truly using a blue ocean strategy here by pairing journalism and e-learning. So we didn't look for low-hanging fruit, but we had to take a creative approach. And we used relevant sources like Data USA and Statista in order to determine the number of people we would be targeting. Now, after finding that independent variable, we also had to take our price points and pair those together in order to get these outputs for a certificate, subscription, and licensing market. And these are the numbers that we came up with as a serviceable, obtainable market by 2025. Now, going a little bit deeper into this, we'll take a deep dive into the financials. Now, the financial highlights that we'll be talking about is the pricing, the revenue streams, projected growth, cost structure, and financing. Now, starting with the pricing and revenue stream. So we based our price on the surveys that we had and also competitors. So looking at the first product here is the subscription-based model. We determined that a student subscription would be the cheapest in order for that to be affordable. So coming in this, targeting a niche and a low-cost strategy with a $2 price point for business subscriptions if they're bought in bulk for $4, and as well as the journal subscription at $5. And this also gives AP the opportunity to leverage a price increase on their already subscribed AP style book. Now, second product, licensing. So this one's a little bit more creative. We believe that in the first year, the AP should work with the University of Missouri, who has a renowned journalism program, in order to build out this product by working with their professors in order to create a seasoned curriculum. And through this process, we'd be able to run a beta with the University of Missouri students. And once it's done, we'd be able to take this curriculum and license it out to other universities. But for University of Missouri to pay AP to come in and do this, we have to leverage something. So we believe that giving them part of the licensing share to the other universities would be a way to leverage this in order to get in with university and get some startup financing from that. Now, we came up with a 1% licensing share for AP's name on the curriculum and a 5% licensing share on the curriculum itself. And we got these numbers from similar licensing from Royalty Source. Now, the third product is the certificate. And this kind of builds off of the subscription here. And this is where, this really gives an opportunity for students, whether it's at Mizzou or maybe it's at a school that is definitely overlooked. It gives them a leg up of getting this certificate when trying to go out and get a job, especially with the current job market right now, as the supply is much higher than the demand. And we believe those price points are $200 for students, $225 bought in bulk by businesses, and $250 for a general price. And we base these prices on our pricing comps and our survey. Now going to the next slide. So the competitive landscape and pricing comps. So we really pinned down to these three, not necessarily competitors, but they are working in this space. So LinkedIn Learning, you can kind of think of as the Netflix for e-learning, as they have a plethora of certificates and training videos on their site for $29.99 a month. Skillsoft and Coursera are a little bit different, where they actually target industries. So Skillsoft and Coursera might target financial services or healthcare at a much higher price point. And so no one right now is targeting journalism. And so AP would be a first mover in this space. Now going into the projected growth. So our key driver here is our subscription. And as you can imagine, subscription is very scalable. It has monthly recurring revenue from customers. And the fixed cost, there's not a lot of fixed costs or variable costs that go along with this. This is assumption based. So like we talked about earlier, how we calculated our market opportunity and then paired that with our pricing multiples. We feel that our price points and our target market that we came up with was very conservative and almost a little bit bearish. And we have in our appendix that mapped out how we calculated the market and a suite of financial statements. Next, the cost structure. So we use public comps like 2U and Instructure in order to pin down what the cost would be ongoing for this project. And so you would need content creators, developers, project managers, and such. Now, lastly, positive cash flows by 2023 is what we're projecting. And we're projecting an earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, amortization margin of 42.29% by 2025. Now, going a little bit further into this, we really think, our creative approach here of diversifying revenue streams is really going to hedge the risk for a new syndicate like AP going on in the future. And we believe because of their brand identity and their name, they have the potential for growth hacking because they don't have the high customer acquisition costs as if a startup company would come in this space and try to get their name out there. They already have platforms readily available. They already have the AP style book. And so they can leverage that going forward. And so, with this technology, they would be able to disrupt the e-learning space because no one else is targeting journalism. And they would be a first mover and innovating the education going forward for journalism. This is also a platform for future innovation. So it doesn't stop here. They can continuously build on this platform, creating new curriculum, new certificates, or whatever else it might be. Maybe it could be setting up training videos live to talk to their journalists. I think there's a plethora of opportunities here. Now, how do we start this project? Due to AP's current financial position, they wouldn't be able to bootstrap this project. So we believe that they need to leverage this with financing with a note. And due to the current interest rate environment, this is a great opportunity because interest rates are at all-time lows. Now I'm going to hand it off to Christian to go over the timeline.
Thank you very much, Brett. So to wrap presentation up, by 2021, we'd like to have finished the prototype, have a contract set with RJI, and have already started testing this with MU students. We'll take the the feedback we get, make the adjustments and improvements that we need, and then ultimately by 2022, hopefully go to the market where we'll sell this curriculum to top journalism universities. And onward, just keep scaling this up, try to dominate the US market. And then like Caroline mentioned, maybe dipping the toes into the global market that we want to take in the future. So in conclusion, I want to reemphasize a couple key points. When we were developing this product, we wanted to pick an idea that leveraged AP's strengths, kind of keep it in their wheelhouse of expertise. With the partnership with RJI, that fills the need or the gap of writing the curriculum and developing this. And then secondly, we want to make sure that it was scalable. And with the digitalized content, this has allowed us to be able to scale this at a more efficient rate. And then lastly, my last point can be illustrated with this quote. Wayne Gretzky, one of the best hockey players in the game, he said, "A good hockey player plays where the puck is. A great hockey player plays where the puck is going to be." I think this is very applicable to the situation AP is in right now. E-learning is growing and it's only going to continue to grow. So act now and build this product now. They can see, they can create, a competitive advantage in the future. So with that being said, my team and I, we couldn't be any more sure that this product will provide AP with a constant, reliable revenue source, and we couldn't be any more sure of it. Before I open it up to questions, I want to give a special thanks to Randall Smith. He was the director, the leader of this group. Thank you, Randy. You were awesome. And if you guys have any questions, please let us know. Thank you for your time.
All right, so judges, do you have any questions?
I'd start off with one. I guess trying to figure out why you would have I see this is a course, e-learning course, why you would have a subscription. Some of these do by, you purchase by course instead of why would they have a subscription? And is this a course and something that AP already has in the style book? Is that what the prototype is? And who owns the course content? I was confused, is the universities developing this course, or who, kind of clarifying all that?
Yeah. So, I'll start with your last question there. So, okay. Going in and building the curriculum with the University of Missouri, we believe the university would pay us in order to come in and build this curriculum for a remote class to offer to their students, as whether it's one course or an accredited certificate. And so it's an opportunity for journalism institutions to diversify their curriculum, especially with the way things are moving. And so, AP would own this, but in order to leverage them getting some startup money in the beginning, I think that they should give University of Missouri a share of the licensing revenue as they would license this out to other journalism institutions. Now going into the
my concern would be that whatever the university or their employees would create, the university would want to have ownership of that. Is that correct?
It is correct, but they're also not going to have this if they don't work with AP. So, I think there's two sides of the table here. They don't have it now. If AP came to them and said, "Hey, we have this project. We want to build out this curriculum. We want to license to other universities. We'll give you a part of that revenue share." University of Missouri just have to allocate a couple professors here in order to build out this curriculum. And then they have no costs going forward. They just get a revenue share for the licensing of the curriculum to other journalism institutions with their name on it. And they get to be a first mover for the curriculum here. Now going into the subscription, that's more of like small little like training videos, more so digitizing the AP style book even more with videos from AP's journalists. And so that would be more geared towards like people in the journalism industry or students. So that's more what the subscription is, and it's more of a platform to continuously build off of, and starting that with a low-cost strategy, and it also creates monthly recurring revenue. And so it helps scale this project going forward.
I have a follow-up comment to the question about the licensing. working with universities, allocating instructors, there is a big question generally with regard to intellectual property and who owns the rights to any sort of content an individual faculty member verbalizes or writes, who owns the assignment, like the actual, creative back end part of the assignment or of the lecture. Is it the instructor? Is it the university? And now we have, is it the AP? So that is going to be something to kind of work through because it's not necessarily, the University of Missouri providing content or providing this distribution channel, but it's also the individual faculty member that is contracted by the university. So again, just something to think through. My next question is also about this subscription in combination with the certification. If I'm an individual customer of this subscription, once I earn my certificate or once I have perfected my skills with regard to AP style, is there any reason for me to continue to pay for my subscription? Or is there any reason for me to continue to be a member? It seems like once I have the education, once I have the technical skill, once I earn the certificate, then I'm kind of done. So the shelf life of my subscription dollars seems fairly limited. Can you talk to us just about your thought process there? And maybe I've misunderstood it.
And can you also explain the difference in the pricing of the certificate and the subscription? Can you get a certificate with the subscription, or do you have to pay for that separately?
Yeah, so the subscription is more so of like a hands-on training. That's not paired with the subscription. I mean with the certificate. So think of like LinkedIn Learning, where you can go on there and you have, different training videos and little projects that get, whether it's cases that you can work on. And so that's more so for like them to have continuous learning or training for different corners of the AP style book. And so it's not necessarily, they're two different things. Like you can either get both or you get one or the other. And so I think like the subscription's an opportunity for them to, get some customers that are reoccurring, and then also have a platform to continue to innovate and add content. There's definitely different avenues you could look at this. You could say, maybe they could just have that platform as a freemium platform where they have ad revenue. Or you could have, a premium product on there. But I think there's definitely different avenues you could take at this. And I think those are definitely good questions you guys are asking. But I think that the sole part of the subscription is just an opportunity to continuously innovate and scale the project.
Just to answer.
I can also back off that.
Oh, go ahead.
So the AP style book, they come out with a new one every year about different things that have changed. And so we're looking at this as if the AP is going to continuously come out with a new style book every year with updated things, either the certificate or the classes will continuously provide updated information on how to continue yours. Not looking at it as, okay, if you get your certificate, you're one and done. It's almost like as if you're a doctor or a nurse and you have to continuously, make sure that your skills are up to date as things and technologies change. So we're looking at it as, okay, if you do this certificate, maybe 2 years, you have to retake a test or, update your skill in order for you to remain AP skill ready. The AP and the brand itself is such a good, prestigious name. We want to be able to associate that with a continuous amount of learning. And so if you have the certificate, then it shows that you keep going throughout that time period to make sure that you are remaining relevant, so to speak.
Yeah, and to add to that, right now I have a certification for personal training, and I have to take learning modules to earn points to stay certified, because health research is always coming out, things are always changing. It's the same with this. The way that you have to cover media, certain strategies, certain tips, how you do it will always be changing. So maybe adopting a strategy where you have to take some learning modules to stay certified could also help provide a consistent revenue stream for them as well.
We're also focusing on one aspect of the e-learning, which is the AP style. But another way to continually generate revenue is the fact that it doesn't have to remain with AP style. And part of the presentation would focus on this would be entry point, but then there are other journalism skills that can be taught when someone is in the newsroom, the business reporting skills, for example. So that's just another way to diversify this revenue stream and make it reoccurring. Just to add that.
So kind of related to that, on your guys' financial projections, how much of the income is like individuals taking the certificate or taking courses or subscriptions, and how much of that is like large employers signing up to get their staff trained as they bring on new hires or things like that?
Yeah, this is Brett. So certificate revenue is about 25% of what we projected into the net revenue. If you want to pull up the appendix, does somebody want to pull up the appendix?
I can.
So go to the first. So this is how we go to the certificate one, the one before this. Okay, so this is how we came up with our market for subscriptions and certificates. So we didn't necessarily target like businesses. We started with adults in the US and then broke it off into adults who are interested in journalism, and then people in the workforce in journalism, and then undergraduate students. And then we broke that off into the 40% of adults, 40% of undergraduate students, and the people in journalism workforce. So it wasn't necessarily like we came up with, we're going to target this many businesses. It was more, we came up with these numbers from our data sources and then grew it at the rate that people in the workforce were growing at. So that's how we came up with that. Now, if you want to go to the financials, Christian. Okay, so this is where we're targeting our revenue going forward. The subscriptions, more so because it's easier to target people at that lower cost point, whereas a certificate's a one-time cost. And so it's easier to scale that going forward in the future. But the certificate revenue is a significant amount. Whereas it's our second biggest revenue stream. And I think, with the certificate, whether it's, having the subscription to continue that education, but there's also opportunities to continually making new certificates through the industry, whether it's investigative journalism or writing techniques for the AP style book. And, I do agree with like the business standpoint because I have to write a lot of business reports. And so I think in business, writing is kind of a lost art. And so this is something that could be targeted to more people, but because we don't necessarily have a market for this, it's hard to pin down those numbers.
Yeah, actually, I work in marketing, and content is huge in marketing. I mean, people at all kinds of businesses have to write stuff all the time to try and get SEO rankings and get in front of their target market and stuff like that. So I do actually think you probably have a large market for just getting people some basic training in writing. I was just curious if you were targeting employers at all or just going for the individual. Because, one thing is, as I'm onboarding new employees, I don't necessarily have the time to go over basic writing, AP style rules with people. And so that might be kind of another avenue. That's why I was asking the question. And then the other question I have is, so like something in my industry that is on resumes a lot are like Google Analytics training, Google Analytics certified, Google AdWords certified, stuff like that. You guys sound like you're kind of going for that with this. Yeah. What specifically are you going to do to make sure that that's like a must-have on resumes?
Yeah, so, I think it's definitely something that AP would have to put some work into, whether it's, only hiring, making their employees have the certificate, or, hiring other people in the job market that have the certificate over others. I think it could be, making this a requirement. And so you have to have the demand. I think that's one avenue to take. It's just like me, like, I had to take the CPA exam in order to do certain things. I have continuing education with ethics, and it's something I have to do. And so I don't see like, anything different here. The journalism industry has definitely been like a laggard in some innovation. And so I think this is one way to kind of tie things together and, help AP in the future for like an opportunity and a platform for continued innovation.
We also wanted to make sure to look at this. So the reason that we suggested for the AP to partner with RJI at the University of Missouri and also look at other universities to pair with as well is if professors are using this as a requirement, because generally speaking, students, again, they're price sensitive. They're not going to want to pay a whole lot of money to get a certificate if they don't think it's going to be useful. But if a school like the University of Missouri with a really good journalism institute has professors saying, hey, you guys need to do this as a prereq before we're getting into this class, that will provide a lot of word of mouth starting out with students, and then they're able to put it on their resumes if they go not only to the AP but a whole slew of different companies, and they have that on their resume. That'll start getting traction, and so we're hoping that starting there with students and then hopefully moving forward will show that the AP is not only just delivered a really, really good class and course load, but it'll also provide really good candidates for employers. So that's what we're aiming for.
Okay, that's our last question and last answer. So at this particular time, we're going to give the judges about 15 minutes to make up their scoring sheets. And I want to thank the AP team, the Muck Rock team, and the Wall Street Journal team for excellent presentations today. We will be back here. So if you want to hang on for the next 15 minutes or so with the winners of today's competition. And I thank you so much, students. Excellent job, every team.
Thank you.
I wanted to say also thank you to the judges for excellent questions in terms of making the students think. It's real life when they can respond immediately to questions that they have about their presentations. Thank you all.
So during this time, are we supposed to be quiet or?
Yeah. You sit and think, reflect. We're still on YouTube streaming, and I guess I can pause the recording here.
You should show us the shredded wheat video.
But you can take a break if you need to take a little stretch or something.
I'm good.
Okay, but anyway, I've paused the recording, but I think I'm going to leave the live, so that's why I put the little share there so they can see when we're coming back.
Sure.
So, yeah, that was a great job, everybody.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah. Cool.
So we are live on YouTube right now?
Yes, you are still live on YouTube.
How many people are watching it? Do you know?
We had 24 at the max. I know the dean was watching it. He sent me a note. He had to pop off at some point, but he said he watched it.
Oh, was it before Team AP?
It might have been before Team AP, but
that's crazy.
But yeah, so we've had a number of people watch it, and it'll be available there on the CDIG channel for people to watch in posterity, perpetuity.
Gotcha.
We also had at least 135 Zoom participants.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
What was the deal with that? Was it just like a bunch of people in Asia? That was like.
So China has blocked YouTube, so they wanted to watch it, but they couldn't access the YouTube website. So so Dr. Zhang reached out to me and asked, can we share the Zoom link with them so that they can watch it? And we said, yeah, of course. So that's why we had so many people on the Zoom.
Oh, okay, that
Yes,
makes sense.
thank you, and Hillary, and yeah, and so there were a lot of young students from a university in China, some professors there, and but they normally they don't show their face or they don't start a video. So then, but I could see their names there, but because of time difference, and I also saw that many of them and leave the meeting and before and the AP group. So but they were silent and yeah, but I think that their appearance, their attendance will be kind of like a cheerleading job and for your guys and wonderful presentations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I did look on the video on YouTube, and it does do 720p. It looked really good. So
Wow.
yeah, that looked really nice.
That's pretty awesome.
Yes, it's my honor to join the WSJ project. Thank you for the American professors, American friends who concerned Chinese people who are in the convenient 19. Thank you all.
Oh yeah, it's great having you. We're really glad you could participate.
Yeah, thank you for all you contributed to the team. I think you were a valued member of the team, and we're glad to have you.
How do you set your picture to show up if your video's not on?
If you go to, you have to go to the actual Zoom website, I think, and then log in
Click
there.
your profile, and I think you had a profile picture.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so it's a system Zoom and then /profile. I can send you the link if that's helpful.
Sure. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna get a picture of me that looks so realistic, like that no one will think that I'm not there.
Yeah,
But
I tried that. It doesn't work because it doesn't fill the entire thing. You look at Austin's, how it's squared up.
You
It
can't
won't
get it all
work.
the way.
Yeah, you can't because it's wants to have. I tried that already. Now what you can do is a virtual background with a green screen and then have yourself in it. So I thought about making a little video that would just kind of loop. So
that'd be hilarious.
All right, so I just posted in the chat the link to that how to edit your profile stuff. And that
Perfect.
includes like your picture that shows up and all that.
Thank you.
No problem.
You got a lot of meetings you wanted to go to, Scott, but you don't actually want to go to.
Well, I at least want to seem like I'm there, you know. So
I got you.
I have it auto dial into the faculty meetings while I'm bike riding. That would be ideal.
Scott, your email excited me yesterday. It saddened me and then excited me. You were messing with my emotions.
Oh, the email I sent late?
Yeah. So what exactly was the class? Like what's the exact curriculum you were going to teach for that?
Oh, yeah, so that's a kind of an interesting question at 100. And I think Caroline was in it as well. Joshua was.
The class last semester, Scott?
Yeah, the 8100.
Like exploring the digital globe, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, exploring. So I would say every evening we were exploring a different. So sometimes we would do something outside of class. So like one week we toured the power plant, and then that evening we had a guy who, one guy talked about smart grids and energy networks, and the other guy talked about arbitraging energy markets, like with battery storage, and that was pretty fascinating. I remember Austin and Alex was in that too. We went out afterward and kept on talking with the guy for a couple hours. But then one time we did something on open source hardware. We did another one with the VR lab. I think Grant was in that class too. A lot of the students that were in this class were in that. So it's exploring the digital globe, but it should be called the things Scott thinks are neat.
Yeah, if you guys haven't like looked into it, Josh and everybody else, like you should make sure you get that certificate, because you can throw that also on your resume. And by taking this class and that class, we like, I think Hillary can tell you more about it, but we get like a certificate.
Yeah. So then they and
So I'm glad you guys brought that up, because I just want to make sure that everybody in this class who also took 8100 applies for that certificate.
I did.
Okay. Yeah, I know a lot of you have. I've received a lot of your paperwork, and I just want to go ahead and announce, just in case anyone did not.
I was trying to look at this on the.
Hillary, what's the deadline on that paperwork? It's sitting here on my desk, and I've been waiting to come by in person on campus. However, they're interesting times. So can we mail it anywhere if we need to?
So actually, everything is electronic right now. So, and if you have it physically filled out on paper, what I can do is I can email you a fillable PDF, and you can just send that back to me. Or you can scan and send what you have.
Okay, I'd appreciate either of those options. I'll message you privately.
Okay, I'm also trying to figure out who's talking. I'm looking for the video.
It's Miles.
Miles. Okay, thanks, Miles.
Oh,
Scott, I should tell you that the judges have made their final decision, and Rob is going to be announcing it when I guess in about 4 minutes or so.
Or we can pull them out earlier, whatever you think.
Rob, are you ready to go?
I am ready to go.
Okay. Okay.
Let me stop. Let me get myself back organized here. Okay. Great. So we are back and ready to go, Randy.
Okay. The judges have made their final decision, and so I'm going to hand it over to Rob Jones to announce their thoughts on the competition.
Thank you, Randy. First and foremost, I want to congratulate all the groups on a job well done, especially given the circumstances. I've never seen these circumstances in this class, and you all handled it with class and grace. So you all had wonderful ideas, and thank you all for the hard work that you did. The final tally was very, very close. There was an 8-point spread between the three teams, and first and second was decided by a point. And with that, I'll announce that in third place, we have Team Muck Rock. In second place, we have Team Wall Street Journal. And the winner is Team AP.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you all. So congratulations on the job well done.
Trying some like confetti to drop down my room.
Congratulations to everyone.
Congratulations on the job well done. Truly appreciate it watching all of these groups. You all are very, very talented individuals. So I was pretty inspired by all the work that you all did, especially the coaches as well. So thank you and congratulations to everyone.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you to everyone.
Yeah, thank you very much, Rob. Thank you to all the judges. Great questions, and thank you to all of our students. I can't thank you enough for all of the work that you did as we went through this semester and the pivot that we had to make to go online. You all presented professionally and with great creativity and great thoughtfulness today. So my congratulations to all of you. And the last thing that we have to do this semester is actually two things. We have to review the course, which you'll be getting those course reviews here soon. And then the second thing is our final papers are due on Tuesday. So, and we have a spot on Canvas for you to turn those in. So thank you, everybody. And I'm so deeply appreciative, and I've so much enjoyed having each one of you in class. I don't know, Scott or Les, if you'd like to say some things.
Oh, it was a great experience. It's really to have just a student, but that's not only in the case of our individual, entire class feels our new department of colleagues when I am in class. So I really hope that everybody will stay in touch and in the future.
And I'd like to echo Scott's points there, along with the fact that when you consider the challenging circumstances that were thrown at everybody, I thought the level and professionalism of the presentations was amazing. And I can see where it was very difficult for the judges to make a selection. But in my book, any one team could be ranked as the winner of this competition, because everybody stepped up to the plate and showed that education at the University of Missouri is worth its weight in gold, because you all showed that you were academic scholars through this presentation. So thanks to each of you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Les.
Thank you, everybody. It's the first time we've done this on YouTube and et cetera. Anything we need to do to wrap this up, Scott?
I'm just saying thank you, especially time out with us and provide. I haven't done it myself, and so I really appreciate that. We'll send you out to the channel on YouTube. Otherwise, have a great weekend.
All right. Congratulations, everyone.
Congratulations, everybody. Goodbye.
Congratulations, everybody.
Everybody stay
everybody.
safe and healthy.
Yes.